Hello, everybody. This is Naples Vice podcast number one, where we talk finance, we talk current events, and we just talk about life. There's never a lack of things to talk about when it comes to life. Certainly not a lack of things to talk about when it comes to current events, and certainly no lack of things to talk about when it comes to finance. So, section number one, we're going into the charts. So what do we do today? Bonds, incredible rally in bonds today. It does appear as though we're starting to see cash flow into the bonds. This seems to be a precursor, at least in my view, of downside coming in the stock market. At least from what I've seen so far, it appears that we will see some kind of a flush into bonds before we start seeing weakness in stocks. And with the strength today in bonds pushing down rates, we do see uh, not quite weakness yet in stocks, but we did have this big down day here on Tuesday, and we really haven't been able to get any steam going forward. Volume seems to be falling off a little bit here in the ES. We're going to go over to SPX, the actual S&P itself, which is what I find myself looking at more and more, and I try to compare the two. The futures tell you the open, the futures tell you what's going on overnight, and the SPX tells you what actually two now almost doji kind of candles sitting here. We're still above the 9. We haven't reset the count. We are getting awfully close to that ADMA, which is one thing that for the shorts, I'm short. Well, I'm not actually short stocks. I'm playing this a different way this time. I'm long VIX calls and long bonds, which essentially gives you the same. They're negative. It's negative correlation, but it gives you the same kind of results. I'd just rather be long because I think there's ETF. I think that's going to give far better gains than buying puts on SPY, in my opinion. And it's something new. I wanted to try. VIX is negatively correlated to the S&P, so you just flip the S&P chart upside down, and you have the VIX essentially. You'll hear the mainstream. Uh, what's a polite word for them? Talking heads talk about the VIX as the fear index. That's pretty much what it is. So, the VIX does go up, and it goes up pretty violently when we start seeing some pretty violent moves to the downside in the S&P. So that's how I'm playing this, and we continue to see. Once again, we're day 2 of a doji kind of day, closing. Not we got some nice fluctuation, but we don't have really any conviction in the last 2 days. Volume really isn't significant, and that's always something to kind of keep your eye on here, because we want to see big volume. If we're going to see some kind of a continuation, a big volume day on top of either a big move to the downside or a big move to the upside, that just tells us that they made up their mind. And right now, the volume it's nothing to really write home about. We don't see the kind of volume that we see prior to a very large move. So it's really just a waiting game right now. Is this market oversold here? Debatably. This week essentially was a retest of the 8 EMA. On the weekly chart, we do have the close of the green one. So what does that tell you? Well, odds are tomorrow's already Friday. This is, I've been a little bit weird about using the TD sequential as of late. But one great thing that it does tell you is, the time aspect of all this. So Friday, so tomorrow, okay, we would have to come all the way up to 2674. All right, so we have to have an over 30-point day tomorrow. The probability of that at this point, I don't think is very good. The probability of us seeing a 30-point move to the downside is much greater. Okay, we do have the low of this week at 26.15, which is very close to the ADMA, as well as a retest of 2600, which we still haven't done yet. So really the bearish case here is strong, even if we're not making new lows, even if we're not testing the new lows. The bearish case at this point is still strong. So as we're moving on from the S&P, crude oil, which I haven't really been, usually I do a lot of stuff in crude oil, but I've been swaying away. Weekly chart looks like we're retesting the 200. We did break last week with a 2 above a 1, coming out of really a nasty sell-off on the weekly chart. Let's see if we cooperate that on the daily. Yeah, daily, we've been a little sideways. I guess looks like today we did have a slight bounce off the ADMA, which would be a bullish case. Essentially, the prior 2 days we had a pullback to that level. But I'm just not doing anything with crude oil. I think crude oil probably will fall off with the stock market, so I'm not touching it because I already have enough exposure to that kind of a move. One thing I really want to talk about, because we had some very, very crazy moves today in the currency market, at least in the two I watch. I watch the XY and I watch the euro. I don't really care about the pound. I may add the yen to my chart because the yen tends to be a safe haven, and that's usually a pretty good way to gauge other moves. Like if we're starting to see, excuse me, comfortable here. If we're starting to see big moves in the safe havens, we should see something in the yen. The dollar really just, prior to today, looked like we were probably going back down. After today, we do have a perfect 9 forming here, so we'll see a little bit of pullback here at the 50-day moving average in the XY. Pretty healthy, that's okay. The bullish case for the dollar, we see the small pullback. Today, after a massive candle like that, if you don't see a pullback, I automatically question the health of that move. Excuse me. Coming out onto a longer term weekly of the DXY, we did break the 8 EMA on the weekly chart, bullish there. Looks like 2 weeks ago we had a hammer right at the 200-day moving average, strength off of there. So really we're just kind of coming out here. I do have a small trend line here on the dollar, which is looking like we still have an intact uptrend here. It's starting to taper a little bit. So we could be coming into some sideways action here, which I don't entirely wouldn't want to see because you could sell premium here, but if you're directional, you don't want to see that. The euro. All right, on my Facebook page, I've been talking about the 113 level, and it's a very obvious level, which worries me. Because when you have a very obvious level like that, typically, weird things are going to happen around there. Trading is very, to be good at this, you really have to be contrarian in your viewpoint. So, you're looking at the aspect of, okay, 90% of people fail this, why? Okay, so if I'm looking at something that 90% of these people are seeing, like an obvious level like 113 here, what am I thinking? Those 90% of people are going to get killed, so I'm seeing a bounce. However, the sequential on the weekly chart of the euro is telling me that, okay, we're going to break the 113 level. However, with that contrarian kind of mindset, excuse me, getting text messages while I'm live. I do apologize, it's rude. So we're looking at it from that mindset. But from my setup, okay, despite all the contrarian kind of thinking, that would be a short trade in the euro. As far as entries go, I don't want to enter on the weekly chart. I would be looking at probably the daily chart most likely for entries because I would be using FXE. I don't do spot forex, so I would probably wait until sometime next week until we get a little bit of a price flip here on the daily chart. If they show a lot of strength here coming off this perfected 9, I would scratch the entire thing and just forget about it. So the euro is setting up, but the entry is not quite there yet. Once again, the rule of these massive candles here, is always wait until the day after, and especially if you're in options, if you're buying puts here on like FXE, for example, uh, those puts are going to get hammered tomorrow, and you're going to get a great opportunity. But once again, due to this simple fact that we do have the 9 here, I probably wouldn't be getting into a short euro just yet. We need to come back up to this 80 MA, or get a price flip either or. I'd rather see the 80 MA test before entering something short. But I think we're going to see some pretty good action here in the euro coming up. And I can't wait because if we really break 113, I just might take a position there. I don't like trading currencies, and I say that over and over. I sound like a broken record, but if there's a good enough setup in there like this, like breaking a major level that has caused problems or helped support, however you want to call it, caused problems for the shorts and help the longs over a significant amount of time, like this is the weekly chart. And 113 has been pretty significant going back into 2016, and I would imagine further. I don't really care any further out than that, but that's a very important level that we're going to really keep an eye on. And if the euro really starts getting hammered here, I think that's going to be a bullish case for the dollar. So, what do we do when the dollar gets strong? We sell gold, which I don't really care for. I probably would rather be. I mean, that's a decision to make there. But if I was getting into that trade, I would probably rather be short the euro than short gold. You always have the option of silver. Silver's manipulated, whatever, who cares? I'd rather be short silver because if I'm taking the risk, right, I want the reward on my side as well. Like, if I'm putting my money on the line, I'm going to get as much out of it as possible. And I think that with silver, I could pull a much better return out. I don't think I know because silver is much more volatile than gold. Just look at history. Like, any time, just go back. I don't need to show you proof. Like, look for yourself. You can see it. Bitcoin, another big kind of story here. Like, silver was on the weekly. I just want to check this on the daily here. Yeah, same story. We're going below the 200. But we're already on a 6 here, so we kind of, probably too late to get in short here. I wouldn't touch it at least. Not too bad from the 8, but I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a more gradual decline here going into the 9 with a big dip down. That's what tends to happen. Bitcoin really is, there's just nothing to say. Way too many perma here on Bitcoin, uh, which I think is a case to not be bullish Bitcoin. Everybody thinks this is it, this is a reversal. It's probably not. It could be. I mean, anything can happen at the end of the day. We don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows. If they tell you they know, they're full of, you know what? Try to be adult about my language. But it's just the way everything's looking here with Bitcoin. I don't think that we're there yet. Just really tapering, prices going nowhere. Same narrative. I don't need to go into that anymore. Nothing really to say. Natural gas looks like we're bouncing a little bit here. Right off kind of a little level here, 302. Yeah, natural gas is probably about done for the year. I'm probably going to take it off my chart until next October. Nothing. It just loses a lot of its action. Eventually, it's very seasonal to get one of these uninterrupted. But anyway, as I was saying, soybeans. I am still looking for a breakout here in soybeans. This is kind of like a mangled ascending triangle in soybeans. But we continue to kind of come up here, and it does appear that we're starting to coil just a little bit. I took my soybean position off back here, so that would have been Tuesday, I believe. I got shaken out because I'm waiting for something huge here in soybeans. And I think a break above 920 is going to be something pretty massive for soybeans. I mean, we kind of have a little bit periodically, and we could probably even move this level up here. Yeah, that works even better. 928 would be so much better. I'm going to get rid of this level here. Go again. I just need to shut these phones off. They really just get in my way sometimes. I'm sure you people understand. As for soybeans, I want to adjust my target here. So for targeting, I'm not really a big Fibonacci person. The only thing I use Fibonacci for is extensions, because they tend to be pretty accurate. The 1618, we got 998. That sounds a little bit extreme for me. So we're going to go to the 1272 extension. To YouTube, I do apologize because you can't see. One, 272. So we're looking at 958 for a soybean target, which 20. That's a pretty good move in soybeans. I would take that. So I don't do futures. I would be buying call options on SOYB, soybean ETF. As far as that goes, I mean, wheat, nothing really going there. Corn looks like it's getting ready to break down, which I don't really. I'm looking at these grains, but I'm starting to wonder if any kind of returns I could get out of these ETFs, even on the options, if it's even worth the risk. Like I've been so much more focused on that lately. Like, what am I risking here to, gain any kind of reward? Yesterday we got to go over some stocks because I was not live yesterday. Starbucks. Looks It's like they must not have had very good earnings. I don't really care about what the earnings did, to be honest with you. United Continental falling off. They did gap up at their earnings. I've been talking about this, shorting strong earnings here as we are in a bear market, remember. And it does look like United Continental is starting to fall off. When they gap up like this into the YouTube universe, and they take the price from here to here, and it stays here and it doesn't move, that is not a good sign. Usually, not a good sign. You want to see continuation. You want to see conviction. You want to see people buying that thing. If they're not buying that thing after the gap, forget about it. Then it's probably going to go back down and it's going to break below the gap. So false break out there on United Continental, and I was talking about that prior. Procter and Gamble did. They had earnings, which I do believe were pretty good, and for some reason, trading views has been really weird. If anybody in the YouTube world, if you're on trading view, for some reason it's not updating daily candles appropriately. But Procter and Gamble, well, no, let's take a look. Where did this close today? 988. Yeah, that's not right. It's Procter and Gamble's doing the same thing. We actually do have a 13 here on the daily chart, which that's not a good sign. It means that, and that's a green 13 because Procter and Gamble has been very explosive. Well, it was very explosive here. Excuse me, I get into saying things and I just lose my train of thought sometimes. Looking at these charts, talking, cameras right here. It gets overwhelming. I'm sure you folks understand that. So we're looking to probably short Procter and Gamble at some point. Procter and Gamble is one of my favorite stocks probably ever to sell premium in because the moves are just very consistent. And when I sell premium, I'm a little bit different. I'm not looking for high IV. I'm looking for consistency when I'm selling premium. If I want big gains, I will do long options directionally. When I'm selling premium, if I'm making 20%, if I'm pulling in $10 on a 50-cent spread, I'm totally okay with that. That's why I sell premium, for consistent gains. It's part of my portfolio where I just sell premium, and that is for consistent cash flow that I can then in turn put into these other riskier trades. So it's constantly recycling capital. Here in U.S. Steel, I really was debating putting on an iron condor actually. Okay, because we were going range bound, but with the S&Ps looking like they're getting ready to roll over any day now, I'm not sure I would want to be short any kind of puts anywhere around there. Big Mama, which as you folks become more familiar with me and my style, Big Mama is Apple. Not really saying anything. Earnings we do have on the 29th, so that's going to be next week. That's really going to be telling. Probably not going to be good. I mean, Apple came out with forward guidance and said that things aren't looking so hot over there. If they come out with earnings that, for some reason, beat estimates or do whatever, I would be very surprised. I'm not doing earnings. I do not like the idea of selling premium into earnings, that ratio spreads or anything like that. That is too much risk for me for the reward that I'm gaining. I don't like it. Johnson & Johnson did have earnings, So yeah, pretty big surprise. Not good on there in Johnson and Johnson. I don't trust the numbers on TradingView. I don't think they're always that accurate. Johnson and Johnson continues to, excuse me, stay in this range. I probably wouldn't sell any kind of premium in there. I have a very hard time selling premium when a trending, like they say, sell iron condors and range bound markets. I don't like the principle of that. Applied Materials had a huge breakout today. Once again, TradingView is not updating things appropriately, so you can't see, but huge explosion there. Verizon very strong, pulling back today. 57.07 was the close. Wow, so you're pretty much giving back most of yesterday's gains. Wow, yeah, this is really a story here. Pacific Gas and Electric. So supposedly it wasn't their fault now in the California wildfires in regards to like anything they had to do with it. So now they might not be going bankrupt. They gapped up huge. I got mixed numbers because let me pull this up here. I should have had this ready. I want to bring this up because I'm a little bit confused myself. I'm not sure why TradingView doesn't have the right numbers. So at the close, via Yahoo Finance, I have $13.95 for PG&E, whereas TradingView says the closing price was $9.98. Yeah, I'm kind of getting fed up with TradingView. I don't know why they're not giving me accurate numbers. All the news stuff, when it comes to news, I don't trust Yahoo Finance whatsoever. Anything news, it's usually just a bunch of crap. Don't listen to any of it. You have to remember, I shouldn't say crap. That's not necessarily the most appropriate word. But it's just, where that 90% of people I was talking about fail at this, so that's what they listen to. They talk about what's hot. They don't talk about what's to buy. And, when you're talking about something big that happened, for example, today, PG&E, you don't want to buy that. We're looking for shorting opportunities, actually, because I don't buy the narrative. Alcoa, nothing to really write home there. Bed Bath & Beyond's about to get hammered, it looks like, again. Once again, I've been talking about shorting that after earnings, which is probably going to be the trade on most things. Lennar. That's very weird. I'm getting two different numbers again on TradingView. Aurora Cannabis is one we're going to be keeping an eye on. Very strong, above the 8. We do have the 200 there, which could be a problem. But if we break that 200 with some nice momentum, I'm thinking about picking up some call options there. Probably right at the money. I want to get some cheap ones. I don't want to risk a lot. Those cheap options, if I can pick up a 10 lot of those guys for $200-300, I'll take them. And I think we're going to wrap up the finance section here. That's about all I got to say. I'm not giving away trades here, just talking about ideas, which is really the whole point of this podcast here. So there's more thing. Okay, Facebook, I will see you later. So I do talk about finance, but I do want to talk about all this nonsense that's going on with this Native American and these Trump hat wearing kids and all this other stuff. Um, okay, so it's proven now that it was a false narrative. Okay, there's video that has come out uh, blatantly showing that the media was floating out a bunch of nonsense, race baiting, causing a bunch of controversy, which is what they do, and which is what I'm going to do because, hey, this is media, my friend. But there's a difference because talking about real issues and causing people to hate each other is a totally different thing. So basically, what it sounds like they're trying to do here, and let's go past all this race stuff. And the only reason I'm talking about this is so that people can look at this from a different perspective. Because I look at things like when I go through life, I don't just listen to everything that I'm told and believe all the words that everybody tells me. I will take in what you tell me and I'll think about it. I'll use logic to come to a conclusion. I don't just believe it because the news said it. And that is, I think that's a very big problem, especially in the U.S. I don't know about, I really can't speak for anybody else, but we believe everything that we're told just because somebody on TV says it. And I think that's ironic because if you're going out to make a big purchase, right? You do your research. You're going to buy a car. You want to, know the gas mileage. You want to know the condition of that car. Is it new? Who has the best deals in town? Is this guy over here ripping me off? Is he a scumbag salesman? Whatever. You're always doing your research and you're not believing what that salesman tells you. Well, basically, at least this is my perspective once again. The media is a salesperson. They are selling you a narrative, they're selling you an idea. And should you always believe a salesperson? No, no way. All right? They have a job to do, and their job is to get viewership. And ask yourself one question: what sells? The boring little article about the old lady knitting hats down the street, or the giant controversy about Donald Trump supporting kids that are out harassing a Native American, which isn't true, once again. Group of whoever, from what I've heard, was that they're shouting a bunch of racial slurs at these kids, and the natives were, chanting a bunch of things at these kids, basically causing the problem. So it wasn't even these kids. And I'm not saying it because I'm white. I'm not racist. I don't care about race. Race is a stupid bunch of nonsense that just divides us. We're all just people. We all have a heart, and at the end of the day, we just all need to get along and care for each other. What is all this fighting gonna do? Nothing. We're just dividing ourselves, and the only ones that benefit are people in power. Because the more divided we are, the more easily conquered we are. All right, so you keep buying into all this race narrative and racism, and these people support Donald Trump, so they're bad people. No, that's not true. Do bad people support Donald Trump? I'm sure. I'm sure there's one heinous person out in this world that supports Donald Trump, but that does not define people that support Donald Trump. I don't support Donald Trump. I don't support any politicians because I think the government's the most heinous, evil thing on the planet. Okay, running around pointing guns at people, that is not an institution that I want around. Stealing people's income, bombing people, murdering people, putting people in cages for certain instances where maybe you can make an argument for stuff like that, but 99% of what they do is just evil, control freak, psychopathic kind of things. And those are the people that want you divided. It's not me or you. We go to work every day, we make our living, and we spend time with our family, we spend time with our friends, and I want you to go through your life and I want you to bring up an example of when you actually saw real racism. Because you can see all these things on the news all the time, and they're bringing out the very niche amount of events that occur in this world, such as what's going on right now in Washington D.C. with these kids with the church and things like that, and racism, whatever. But if you look out into your normal life, what do you see? You're walking down the street every day. You're going to work. You're getting a beer with your buddy on Friday. You're going fishing. Whatever. I'm speaking for the guys. Ladies, you do whatever it is that you do. Okay? How often do you really see these things? How much of a problem is there really? And that's a real question. Because they're very good at exaggerating issues that don't really exist. So just think about it like that. How do these things really affect your life, your day to day life? And is it worth focusing on if it's really not impacting your day to day life? Okay, do you have a black friend? Is there a bunch of people saying racist stuff to that person? If there is, I'm sorry. That's hurt. That's horrible. If not, then why do you care? Like, just live your life. Be happy. Achieve something. All this nonsense from the media it's not going to get you anywhere. I'll just tell you that right now. I used to be one of these people that was just constantly had to be debating all this stuff and racism and feminism and ism, communism, whatever ism there is out there that you're looking at. And it's all just a waste of time. You're not going to change anybody's mind. The only way for people to change is for them to change themselves. Otherwise, you're talking to a wall. Okay, changing somebody's political beliefs comes from them changing their own perspective on the world, not from you telling them about how great anarchy is or how great socialism is or XYZ political affiliation. So just think about that the next time that you're reading one of these articles and you're seeing all this nonsense on Facebook about this race thing or this or that or all this emotional stuff that they put out there. Sit back for a moment, think logically, reflect on it, how much it really affects your life, how much it affects the people that you care about's lives. If the answer is no, and if you don't see it, okay, and it's not affecting your life, stay away. Just don't avoid it. Because all this stuff is it's toxic energy that is polluting your mind and distracting you from what really matters in your life, which is your friends, your family, and your passion. So I just wanted to touch on that. And since this is the first edition of this podcast, I am a little bit behind the curve, and I do plan on developing this since this is going to be once a week. Probably starting next week. I would like to pump these numbers up to about an hour and a half, where we're just going to talk about different news items after talking about the market recap for the week, which will be on Friday. Most likely, we're going to have to see as things develop, but Friday is most likely going to be the day that all this goes down. I'll continue to give updates. So on that note, I hope everybody has a great Friday tomorrow. I should be with you. If not, I will continue to get some updates and post some more kind of material as I see ridiculous soul melting things like pretty much everything that the media puts out and everything is posted on Facebook nowadays. So in the meantime, have a good one.